Hello. I'm going to make a sweeping statement here, but in my opinion, this is the Honda ST1100 is simply the best economy touring bike you can buy out there. Period. $2,000 or less gets you an awful lot of capability. So. Anyway, so what is this? 1994 Honda ST1100. Looked for a sports tourer a couple of years ago and bought a concourse. Didn't like it. I thought it was the suspension was soggy back and front. I thought the power delivery wasn't very, I wouldn't say usable or nice. It just wasn't particularly good. It was all at the top and not at the bottom. And anyway, so I didn't like the concourse. I just didn't think it was a particularly good bike, and I sold that and bought an FJ12, which isn't really a sports tourer because it doesn't, well, I don't class it as one because it doesn't have integrated bags. Yeah, you could give you stuff on it or whatever. But anyway, a friend of mine said he was coming over to here in the US about 3 months ago, so I thought I'll get an ST1100. And when I bought the concourse, there weren't any ST1100s for sale, and then when I finally decided I wanted one 3 months ago, there are millions of them. So I bought this one anyway. So what is it? Originated in 1990, called the Pan-European in Europe. It's an 1100cc V4, so it's 4 cylinders across the frame. The V goes that way, so 2 cylinders on each side. You know, so it's just a great big, stable, heavy touring bike. It is heavy, weighs in about 700 pounds. Front wheel 18-inch, I think back wheel is 17-inch. Put V-rated tyres on these, so not super expensive for tyres. So what do you got at the front? Yeah, so there you got an 18-inch front wheel. Front end on this is fantastic. I don't know whether it's stock. I don't know whether the previous owners either sprung it or done anything to it, but the front end of this just feels really, really good. It turns, it doesn't judder, it's a heavy, slow steering bike, but it's a very, very stable bike. So I really like the front end on this. Front brakes aren't brilliant. They're okay, they're not bad. When you got a bit of weight on it, they tend to show their age a little bit. I suspect a better set of pads in this would do it some help. I've been told that OEM ones are the best ones to get, so that's what I'm going to try next time round. This bike also has anti-dive, so when I first looking at the manual, and I don't spend a lot of time reading manuals, there's different quantities of fork oil in each leg, and I thought, oh, I wonder why that is. Must be something to do with the linked brakes. Well, actually the brakes aren't linked on this, so the front master cylinder controls the two front calipers, but on this left-hand side here, when you brake, it pushes this pivot forward here, and it engages the anti-dive, and it actually does work. So that's a nice little touch. Nice big headlight, twin bulb, very bright. Now, for whatever reason, the American ones have a 45-watt pair of 45-watt headlight bulbs in them. So I bought some 65-watt high output white tip or 10,000K or whatever, some Sylvania ones, which cost me like 40 bucks or so. But I put them in them. I had to cut a couple of tabs off to fit them in. But brilliant headlight, you can really see where you're going. This has got the stock screen. Again, popular modification is people put bigger screens on them. When this came, you had a screen that was probably about this high, but it was black, man. I mean, it's a black screen, you couldn't see through it, and I thought, that sucks. So I took that off and got a stock screen for it. Could really do with like a laminar lip. I reckon another 2 inches on the screen could duck the air all the way over your head. So it's not bad, certainly a lot of protection there. Integrated indicators and mirrors, again, you know, a bit like the kind of late model, the R1100 or 1150 BMW, the concourse, the mirrors are low down, okay, so you really do see what's going on behind you, and then the mirrors housings actually come off quite easily. I'm not entirely sure why, but they do, and they go on quite easily as well. Big lazy 1100cc power plant. Red lines at only 8,000 RPM, so in comparison, the old FJ12 red lines at about 9.5. So you've got a lot, you don't have the reviness, and actually, it's not a powerful bike. It feels like it's got a big flywheel. So when you open the throttle, not a lot happens at first, but you kind of feel it steadily picking up. But when you're riding it, you can modulate it on the throttle, so if you're doing 80 mile an hour, it will stay at 80 mile an hour just by, it's not affected by hills or anything like that. So you can just do it with the throttle. So I say it feels like it's got a big flywheel, a fairly lazy motor, but incredibly smooth bike to ride. In fact, civilized. I'd say it's a very civilized bike to ride, and I know about civilized because I'm English and we civilize the whole fucking world. Actually, there's only 22 countries that haven't been invaded or at war with England or with Britain in the world. 22. So anyway, I'm sure, including Chad, Niger, Vatican City, Finland. I'm sure we'll work on it at some point. Fairing gives you quite a bit of protection. Do you get a lot of heat out here in the summer? It does cook your balls a bit coming out of here if it's more than like 85, 90 degrees. You don't notice it when you ride along, ride it when you stop. So integrated saddlebags which clip on, and they come off easy in a matter of minutes. One thing the Concourse does have over this is the saddlebags are bigger than these. These aren't particularly huge. I'm never convinced with the mounting system either, but even still, you can still get a fair amount of stuff in them. Interesting top box. I bought this Bestem, B-E-S-T-E-M, $73, including the mounting plate for a big. That's a pretty big box. You could easily. It's like a 46-litre box or 42-litre box, but whatever size it is, you can get quite a bit of gear in it there. Pretty cheaply made and kind of shows it, but honestly, you know, 350 for the big fancy Gibby one, or 73 for that one. I think it proves itself all day long. So again, not the best construction. You kind of get what you pay for, but in this, I think $73 very, very well spent. I've also got a Nelson Rig tank bag on this. Nelson Rig CL35 tank bag. 53 bucks from Chaparral Motorsports on eBay. It's a huge tank bag, and it has this expansion bit as well. So if you just do this zip around here, lifts up, so you can get a lot of gear in that tank bag. So really, this is a good touring bike. And again, I was thinking about getting a Goldwing, and then I just balked because the Goldwing 1500, a 1500 Goldwing, they're just so bloody big. So this friend of mine came over, and him and his girlfriend went about 2,500 miles down to, like, you know, not Death Valley, Grand Canyon, Durango, old Route 66, Zion, Vegas, and bike performed admirably. So this thing has got 79,000 miles on it, and it runs like a top. I mean, it really does run really nice, even nicer now. I just cleaned the air filter. Modifications on these, well, obviously seats are a big one. Sargent seats, Corbin seats, and there's another make, I can't remember, aftermarket seats. This does need a seat. It's not particularly comfortable. It's a stock seat. It's been recovered at the back, but it's split at the front, so I'll do something about that. Windshields, you can get as big or as wide as you want on these. Also something called heli bars. It's a comfortable riding position. It's fairly upright, but people get these heli bars which are adjustable, so they come up higher and they can tilt, and they can pretty much adjust in 3 dimensions, but they're expensive. So I'm going to just buy some cheap risers that'll lift this up like an inch, so give me that little bit extra. Like I say, people put bags on the front. You can get all sorts of other things as well. So these were available in an ABS traction control model in about similar era. I've no experience of one of those. I don't know what, they command a slightly higher price, but I'm sure they're fine. And then in '96 there was an upgrade where the standard alternator is like 29 watts, I think. Sorry, 29 amps, and they upgraded it to a 40 watt alternator, so you can put more, you know, because this is the typical kind of bike that people put a lot of electric stuff on. You might use electric gloves or handlebar grips or running lights and stuff like that. I haven't put any of that extra stuff in it. I put some reflective tape on there. I said the front brake's not brilliant. Like I said, people have said OEM pads are the best. I'm going to get a set of them next time around. Back brake's pretty damn good. Can't really see in there what you can now, but nice big rotor on it and decent caliper. Apparently it's the same back brake as the 1500 Goldwing. Okay, so it's a big decent brake, plenty of stopping power on the back. Bridgestone Tires, these were new on it when I got it, and it's done about 5,000 miles with these tires on. They're about 2/3 down. So the front I like. The rear doesn't have a lot of grip. I might put a ZR rated tyre, because I can get one. I get Bridgestone something for like 120 bucks in the right size, and I might run that on the back with that one on the front, and we'll see. And now somebody say, oh, you can't run radial with bias ply front or cross ply. I mean, what are they going to do? Fucking blow up, you know? So but like I say, I'll shove one of the radials on the back for a bit more grip. So this has done nearly 80,000 miles, 79612, done 76,000 when I bought it. You shouldn't be scared of high mileage on these. I mean, there's some real high mileage stuff out there, and there's a very, very active owners forum, you know, which has all these kind of mods you can do, or just general kind of ST talk and the endless debates about which are the best tyres or what oil you should use and shit like that. But it is an interesting resource for information. The first one, I looked at 3 before I bought this one. The first one I looked at had 128,000 miles on it, and actually it rode surprisingly nice, and it was a decent bike for the money. Well, no, it was a decent bike, but the guy wanted $1,800. I ended up paying $1,900 for this, and I figured, you know, for a little bit more money or just waiting around, I could pay virtually the same for a bike that had done half the mileage, because obviously it's not just miles on the engine, but the, you know, the chassis and the wheel bearings and the fork bushings and the shock and everything like that. Okay, it has a decent shock. Well, this has a stock shock on the back as well. When my friend ride it and his girlfriend, he said, oh, it wallows a bit. So there's some adjustment here on the damping, and we just turned all that all the way up, and it did have an effect and made the back end a lot firmer. So there is a bit of adjustment in the stock shock. Again, popular mod, aftermarket shock. You can get them for about $500. Again, a lot of money on a $2,000 motorcycle. I find the stock one is adequate. That's not to say that I won't change one in the future if I find a decent used one for sale. Tuning, nothing that I know available really. I'm pretty sure this is it, got integrated cylinders to the engine, so you probably, you know, so a big bore might mean taking the engine out, but as far as I know, and I haven't done a lot of research, but I don't think there's anything like that available. I know that Two Brothers make an exhaust for it, and the obvious one there is you're going to get rid of weight. But I'm also told that, I mean, this is a very quiet motorcycle to ride, very quiet motorcycle. So I also say that it sounds like they're quite loud, which will probably, and it probably give you a bit more mid-range, but it probably take a little bit of the shine off the bike, because one of the things is it's so quiet that you don't hear the exhaust, you just hear the whir of that V4 Honda. They have a timing belt at the front, which, you know, off the crank, which drives the 2 camshafts in the head, so that should be changed every 70,000 miles. I'm told this one was changed. I might check it, I might not, but that's always something that can be changed, and I believe it's not that expensive and not that difficult. Again, very active owners club, take a look there. But even when I was looking at carb tuning, I didn't see anybody doing like a Dynajet kit or a factory jetting kit, or any of those manufacturers' aftermarket kits, which typically have slimmer needles, so you dump a bit more gas, you know, and then you like drill out the vacuum slides through a bigger hole, so that the slides come up quicker. So you just throw more gas in it to get more throttle response. But I don't know of any of that. This idle's nice. It runs pretty nice. I just cleaned the K&N air filter in it, and it runs a little bit better with a bit more mid-range. I read somewhere that said the Canadian jetting specs gave you a little bit more power. I don't know about that, but I can believe that like many bikes of this era, of the later, before things went fuel injection, they're always run very lean to meet emission standards. So I would suspect that going one up on the pilot jets would probably not do it any harm. So it's got a clock, it's got a fuel gauge. So it's funny, it's got a fuel gauge, but the fuel gauge and it's also got a fuel light don't seem to be linked, because the gauge does nothing. You fill it up, the gauge sits on full, and then after 100 miles it starts to move. At about 200 miles it's reading half a tank, and at about 300 miles it's on empty. The gauge, the light comes on and then goes off at about 275 miles off a full tank. So it doesn't seem that like the light and the gauge are really connected, unless the hysteresis of the gauge is a lot less, which I can believe. MPG, well, I've been getting a solid 45 out of this on my commute, which is 20 miles of 70 or 80, 10 miles of like 55, 60, and 7 or 8 miles of stop-go traffic. So I've been pulling 45. It's got a 7-gallon tank. The most I've ever got in it is 6.7. And so you'll run. I've hit over 300 miles on a tank full, and I was tempted to strap a couple of gallons in a tank on the back and just drive it till it ran out of gas, and see how much you can get in it, see how far it can go. But 300 miles, which is a goodly amount, you know, in touring. The gas tank. This is a faux gas tank, dummy gas tank. The filler's about here, but the gas tank is actually under here. So I think Honda missed a trick, and they maybe, but you know, on things like maybe the Pan-Europe, not the Pan-European, the what's that thing? Pacific Coast, maybe the Pacific Coast, I don't know. But under here is like the induction for the carbs and a large round airbox. But it might have been nice if Honda could have made made this faux tank a little bit higher and actually had like a like a luggage hatch as they have on the NC700X. And the NC700X I've looked at and it looks to be a very fine motorcycle actually. Maybe not. So the only mods on the motor this has got is it's got a K&N filter and it seems to run fine. It turns out good gas. There can be, apparently there can be some issues with coolant leaks on these. There can also be issues with exhaust rot, and there can also be issues with the swing arm rotting. You're less likely to see that rotting in Colorado because it's so dry, apart from the fact that it pissed down last week and a lot at the beginning of the year. So I have no experience of those, but again, some research will tell you that. So if you're looking at one of these, make sure it idles nicely, no smoke, doesn't piss out any coolant, and you should be good. I'd say the next one I looked at, actually, I didn't buy the 128,000 mile one, but the next one I looked at, the guy said it's in like excellent condition. It wasn't. It had been knocked around a bit, and it got a shock absorber on it, and he'd done some work on the front, but it sounded a bit cammy on the top end. It just sounded kind of rough, and obviously the cylinders are here, so if we fire it up, you know, the cylinders are right in there, and it just sounded rough. So you know, and plus it looked tatty. And when anybody says something's excellent and you get there and it isn't, they obviously don't have a clue what they're talking about. So I walked away from that, and I bought this one the same day, and I paid $1,900. Now this is a good bike. However, I think I could have done better for my money because I missed out on a couple that I should have bought really. Although this was here in Loveland. But here's the trick with these. You could pay like $1,900 for this, but you might pay $2,400 for one, and it might have a Corbin seat and a set of heli risers and a top box because I had to put that on it, and you know, a rear shock absorber, stuff like that. So my word of advice would be take a look and bear in mind the cost of extras when you look at one of these, because if it's got a shock, $500, a seat, $350, $400, a trunk, $100, a big windshield, $130. If it's got all those things, you know, they're things that you don't have to put on, and these work very well out of the box, but that will enhance the ride of the motorcycle. So like I say, I'm going to go find a seat. They run for a couple of $100 on eBay. You can find them. You can find them there. Just put some reflective material, again off of eBay. I think less than $10 for like 2 meters of this stuff. I put some on there, and I put some on the back as well. And I had a piece on the fender, and I just jet washed it off, which wasn't a good idea. But just to give it a bit more visibility. And I don't know what else to say about this, except, like I said, brilliant economy sports tourer. My friend took this, did 2,500 miles in like 12 days, did it down in the desert of, you know, when he was getting up to 105, 110 degrees in Vegas. It was hot, bike coped with it admirably. Like I said, not heavy on tyres. And in fact, I asked Mitch, a friend of mine, who's a Honda mechanic, and I said, I'm looking at an ST1100, anything to look for? And he said, not really. He said, don't see him in the shop except brakes and tyres. And I can believe that. And then I went to see Rolf the German, who has his own motorcycle shop, and he says, this is very good motorcycle with very good engine. You know, so people do run up high mileage on these. Don't be scared of 60 or 70,000. Don't be scared of 100,000, you know, because you can always, you know, you can take the motor, you can get a motor on eBay for like $300 plus ship, you know. So and in fact, there's a lot of spares around for these on eBay. Very, very not difficult to get parts for. The Holden must have sold a shitload of these. But like I said, you know, better than any of the 1100, 1200, 1000cc Goldwings, better than any of their clones like the Cavalcade, the Suzuki, and whatever, the Yamaha Venture, which in my opinion you should never go near one of those. And the Kawasaki Voyager, same deal. And if somebody's got one of those and it's a great bike and they get good MPG and they've done loads of miles on it, well, good for you. But for me, you know, this beats it hands down in terms of buying it, running costs, parts availability, and everything like that. You know, this beats the K75 BMW, the K100 BMW, simply because they're probably good, reliable bikes. This I think is probably a little bit faster, maybe a little bit torquier, But they're not. But they don't have BMW prices. So you know, when you want a set of throttle cables for these, you can buy them used off eBay for $20. When you want throttle cables for a K100, they're probably 50 or $60. You know, my Dakar needs a head gasket. It's $65 for the fucking head gasket. It's a fucking gasket, man. So so like I said, this beats the BMWs there. You know, and this is just, it'd say $2,000. You know, you could just ride to the moon on it. You know, to the point where, like I said, I don't remember if I said this, but right now, today on Craigslist, there's a 60,000 mile ST1100, looks to be in very good condition, that the guy's had for about 5 or 6 years. He wants to get rid of it, $1,400. You cannot beat that for a touring motorcycle. You cannot beat that. So, you know, to the point where if you just wanted to go somewhere and do a one-way trip, you know, you could pay $1,400, drive it up to Alaska, sell it cheap when you get there, and just fly back, you know, or whatever, you know. Any downsides? Not really. I honestly expect a bit more pickup from the motor. You know, I bet there is some fiddling you can do with the carbs, but also, you know, what else? The carbs have some, you need some weird tool to adjust the pilot screws, apparently. I think I could set this up a little bit better, balancing the carbs and maybe changing the pilot jets, but maybe setting the mixture. But it's not bad, but it would be nice if it just had a little bit more power. And again, two brothers ago, an alternative exhaust system, maybe Delkovic make one. You could probably do that, but I wouldn't want to get the noise. I wouldn't want to get the noise from this, because as it is, it's a nice quiet motorcycle, and that's rather very pleasant. So, you know, I've only had this about 3 months. I've started using it as my commuter. I usually I don't ride with all the luggage on. I just ride with the tank bag on. But this is a very, very, very fine motorcycle. You know, very active owners club. Easy on consumer. But I'm expecting to get about 8,000 miles out of these tyres. You know, because when Splog and Ali took it down into the desert, they got 43. We calculated, got 43 to the gallon, 2 up, loaded. Because of course my mate Splog says, oh yeah, I can get what I need in this trunk, and of course they couldn't get everything that his girlfriend needed in everywhere else. You know, because he said, I got my stuff in the trunk, and she said, oh, the trunk, we could fit our toiletries in there. Must have a very large toothbrush, so I can imagine. So like I said, I can't praise the merits of this motorcycle enough. You know, it's for $2,000, it's very, very difficult to beat. And like I say, for the $1,400 one that's on Craigslist today, that's very, very difficult to beat. It makes me want to buy it just so I can sell it in spring, but I just unfortunately don't have the cash. One interesting thing, so I've got these big metal. There's some big metal engine bars behind those guards there. So should anything untoward happen, you know, should you get a tip, those guards will take it. It's got a little thing there, keep me waterproof trousers, and it's got a lockable one the next door, which keep a couple of bungees and the documents for this bike. Temperature gauge, just one trip reset, fuel light. It's got a side stand light, got a main beam light, obviously. Shrouding around the things. Hydraulic clutch. I changed the fluids in the clutch and the brakes. Didn't, because in the clutch it was like clay in the clutch. So like I say, I just have nothing but good things to say about this bike. It'd be nice if it had a little bit more off the throttle, but that's part of the reason it doesn't. It's very, very high geared. So you know, 8,000 RPM redline, 4,000 RPM is 80. So we're doing 20 miles an hour per 1,000 revs, okay? And on the FJ, so on this $3,000 is 60, and on the FJ $3,000 is about 53. So it's a little bit higher geared than the FJ, but you know, going along at 85, man, it's just super smooth. This really is a highway eater. And so when I bought it, the guy got a 1300, and he bought that, and he said since I put new tires on the 1100, he said I don't know which one to sell, even though he's selling both. He said because the 1000 runs so well. So this morphed into the 1300 and maybe 2001, 2002, a little bit more of everything, you know, a little bit better MPG, a little bit more power, probably maybe a little bit, I don't know about the weight, I think they might be about the same, because like I said, this is a heavy bike. But I said to him, I said, look, you want £5.5 for that or 2,400 for this? You know, can you really see the difference in the two bikes? And he's like, no, you can't. He said, riding the difference, there's very little difference. So, like I said, it's hard to, you know, you could spend 25 grand on a touring BMW if you want. And sure, it's going to have more bells and whistles and, you know, blah-de-blah and all that sort of shit. But at the end of the day, it's still just a fucking motorbike. And for $2,500, sorry, for $2,000, like I say, you just cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong. So I've made a vid today, but we'll still have a look in the garage. The old little CL175 that I picked up. I haven't done anything with that yet. Remnants of a Goldwing. Oh, this is nice. I like this. XS1100. That's very nice. I think I'll do a vid on that next. Actually, it's a very nice bike, that is. And then the usual bunch of old shit that's kicking around. Oh, BMW's popped its head gasket. I need to fix that. Anyway, so that's it. So like I said, for my money, $2,000 for the best goddamn economy sports tourer out there. And if you get one of these, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. All right, see ya.